You are listening to Therapist Unplugged for straight talk on life, relationships, and mental health. I am your host, Laurie Poole, licensed professional counselor with the Montfort Group in North Dallas. Each episode will feature the unplugged views of guests and fellow therapists as we navigate hot topics, therapy trends, and the world around us. Well, Monica, I can't tell you how thrilled I am, sincerely thrilled to be sharing this time with you this morning, because I think we have something to talk about that a lot of people it will resonate with people. They will relate to it because I think many folks complain about what it's like to be on the dating scene these days.
Yes.
It's not easy. We've
No.
got social media, we've got dating apps. We've got matchmaking services. There's just a litany of opportunities to meet people. But the irony is that it doesn't always seem to go so well. And once you actually connect with someone or you meet up with someone, then things continue to evolve. And in reading your blog about toxic traits in dating,
Mhm.
I just thought it would be fun to jump on and talk about that today. As a couples therapist, I certainly
Yes.
hear a lot about this in my own practice. But
Mhm.
why don't you tell us a little bit about your own personal story, Monica, and what inspired you to write your blog?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Lori. It's top of mind right now, in particular, just because the more that you look at the news, the more that I'm passionate about court cases and,
Hmm.
you know, people seeking justice for um, wrongs that have been done in relationships and um, tragedies that have happened and in my own life and my own experiences about you know how we find ourselves in these types of relationships,
Hmm.
and then you wake up one day and think, what the hell just happened? I mean, I thought everything was great, and yet when you take a step back and you start looking at the patterns and everything, you start picking up on red flags that maybe you missed, or maybe you had a tendency to, like, as you've said, Lori, to bleach those red flags.
Right. Yeah. Yes, I have said
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yes. I've taken that with me, by the way, throughout the years. And I have used that. And I always give you credit for that because it's so true. It's so true. It's all too easy, especially when you know, like myself, I tend to be a very understanding person, a very agreeable person. I a people pleaser at heart. And I like to say
Mhm.
recovering people pleaser, but let's be honest.
That's a hard
So
one.
it's a
That's a
hard
hard
one.
one, Monica.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is. Yeah. And so
It's really hard.
all of those things combine to sort of make the perfect storm. And I guess my inspiration for putting this out there is that, I really want people to really, as much as the first parts of dating can, you find yourself just in rapture and
Hmm.
just it's bliss. And then however, it's very important to keep our wits about ourselves because there are
Yes.
definite signs that you can miss that you wake up one day, like I said, and how did I
Yeah.
get here? Yeah.
Very, very true. I think also what happens is the bliss
Mm.
can be so powerful
Oh yeah.
and almost drug-like
Yeah.
that when your spidey senses and your intuition tell you something's amiss,
Yeah.
you want to push your intuition down because the bliss feels so good and it's
Yes.
so captivating and
Ah,
it just kind of takes over.
yes.
It can be very difficult to stay grounded.
Hmm.
And every once in a while, there might be a little blip where you go, hmm, what was that really? Oh, it's nothing.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
you tend and so that's an example of where we bleach the red flags white because we don't pay attention to our intuition. And even where we feel the discomfort in our body telling us something isn't quite right here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, something's
Yeah.
not right. And then do we then, take a closer look at that? Or do we just pull away and like, oh, no, 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 I'll think about that later. This just
Yeah,
feels so good.
exactly. We don't want to lose the moment. And so it can put us into an avoidance mode, if you like,
Oh,
to
very much.
downplay and avoid and not really address. And yet, I think we continue to carry it in our body until we can't.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's a really hard one because we want so badly for things to work, or we just don't want to lose what that moment or what that encounter or situationship has,
Yes,
brought forward into our lives. Tell
absolutely.
me a little bit, maybe Monica, you could share with
Mhm.
our listeners. There might be five listeners, honestly. I don't know how. It's been a while. We haven't
High
done a
five, listeners.
podcast in a long time. Yeah, high five. Exactly. Tell me a little, would you be willing to share a little bit about your own story in terms of toxic traits and what you recognized about yourself?
Yes, absolutely. So I remember, in one particular relationship, um, I still remember the very first, and I think I had written about this in the blog, where it was probably one of the very first dates, and we had been out with um, his older brother and his girlfriend. It was very much like a double date situation, and
Hmm.
felt super comfortable because I was already familiar with them. I had kind of grown up in the same town, so they were very familiar to me,
Hmm.
and just was having a great time. I was all of 26 at the time, so
Hmm.
very young and um, very naive and as understanding as I am now and as empathic as I am now, multiply that by about 1,000 back then.
Hmm.
I had rose-colored glasses on. I mean, very, very trusting and very, very understanding of everything, and just wanted life to just be so smooth. Of course, we all do, right? Um, However, there were things that would happen where some jokes would be made by him, and whether it was like singing out loud in the car, just singing along with the music and everything, and um, he would laugh. He kind of laughed at that and said, "Why are you doing that? Why are you singing so loud?" Like, and I was unaware that I was even doing that, and so
And by
I
the
didn't think,
way, I just
yeah.
want to, sorry to interrupt, but I
Oh,
just want to say you have a beautiful
oh,
voice,
thank you,
Monica
Laurie.
Miller.
Thank you.
And
Thank
so
you.
for him to be, I can understand why that
Yeah.
would be quite a
Yeah.
hit.
Yeah, definitely. And
Yeah.
really, I was just in the moment, and I certainly wasn't the only one singing in the car. I don't want that to be the idea, but I mean, it was it embarrassed me. I was embarrassed, and I still remember his older brother in the car, and he had even said something like, "Dude, what are you doing? You're gonna crush her spirit," and
Wow.
he responded in a antagonistic way and sort of shut it down. And I just that's all it took for me to not sing again in the car. And I still have trouble even to this day, which kind of blows my mind. But it's interesting the things that can happen in life that you really do take with you, and
You do, they stick to you.
yeah, they really
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
Hmm.
There was also, um, I, gosh, I was 26 years old. I was, you know, just starting to get into the field. I think I was working in um, the home building industry at the time, and before it crashed. And I had this cute little knockoff Louis Vuitton, and was just so proud of it, and thought it was cute. And I remember he made fun of it. He said, that's not real. Like, what are you doing? Why are you carrying that? It was in front of everybody, and it was clearly meant to make me smaller and push me down. And
Mm.
at the time I thought, oh my gosh, like, he's right. he is right. Like, why would I be carrying around a fake purse? Like, everybody knows it's fake. Oh my gosh. And so just snowballing
Hmm.
all of the things. And so all of that caused me to kind of not only just like pull away, but really question myself. I didn't question
Hmm.
him. I questioned myself, which is
Wow.
wow.
I'm watching your body language while we're having the
Mhm.
conversation. The word shrink popped into my head. It's like you shrank, you
Yeah,
became smaller to avoid more. Is that kind of what was happening, to avoid more of the
absolutely.
same experience? So if I just dial
Yes.
myself down and make
Yeah,
myself small.
absolutely. Dialing myself down, making myself so much smaller years down the road, because I did end up pursuing a relationship with this man. And, the way that it all unfolded was horrible. Little did I know at that time, back then, that what was waiting for me down the road.
Hmm.
But um, if I had only kind of like listened to my
Yeah.
gut, like, but at that point, I didn't even really have a good sense of my gut at that point.
Yeah.
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 So I feel like it's really about being intentional, like very intentional about everything that's happening in that moment. I wish I had been journaling. Oh my gosh. Like, how incredible would that have been to just go back and journal?
Monica, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about the people pleasing
Yeah.
and how that creates a pattern, as you mentioned earlier, how you notice patterns over the years. But the focus becomes external, not
Mhm.
internal. So, for those of us who have found ourselves in that people pleasing mode
Yeah.
because of attachment stuff that happens to us in
Yeah.
our itty bitty youth, right?
Yes.
The focus, our self worth, and how we
Mhm.
relate to the world depends on what we see in other people relative to how much we pour into them, how much we take care of them, attend
Yeah.
to their needs, and so on. And so we're not as in tune with our own internal experience because the focus is always external.
Yes, you're so right. That is spot on. Absolutely. How can you be paying attention to yourself when you're so focused on everybody else?
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So in that context, I understand absolutely how some of these signs get bleached
Yes.
and the intuition gets pushed down or hushed.
Yes.
And I so it in that regard, I'm wondering if you can walk us through some of the things that you wrote about in your blog
Mm.
about what to watch for, because I think listeners would be
Yeah.
interested in that. And for those who'd like to read Monica's blog, please go to the montfortgroup.com because she gives a whole background to her own story and the things to watch for and what she wishes she had seen at the time. But sometimes you can't find the comb because it's in your hair, right, Monica?
Exactly. Oh my gosh, exactly. I heard this. I heard this saying not that long ago, but it was, I'm blanking on their name. I had heard this on a different podcast, but it was a therapist, and she said, sometimes you can't read the label when you're inside the jar.
That's perfect. That's exactly right.
Yes, it's so true.
Yes. No, that's
And
very, very true.
yeah, one of the things that I remember writing about is, the isolating you from friends and family. I remember it was a combination of him being very critical of my friends, kind of ridiculing them in a very just a very mean way. And it really took me aback because these were my heart friends. These aren't
Mhm.
just like, people that I met, one day and just decided to hang out occasionally. These were very good friends of mine. And um, I remember we had gone over to visit them. I brought him over, and I think it was like a Super Bowl Sunday or something. And we were also celebrating my best friend's birthday at the time. And so, singing happy birthday, whatever. And I remember we left, and he didn't say anything in front of them. So I was grateful for that. But he was critiquing my best friend's husband at the time for singing so loudly happy birthday to my best friend again with the singing. What is that? Oh my God.
I think the man
Maybe
doesn't like to sing.
I think maybe
There's something.
he wishes he could sing.
Maybe he does.
Hey,
Maybe he's
yeah,
envious. Maybe
yeah,
that's a time where you lit up and he didn't like you shining brighter.
yeah. It could be absolutely.
Maybe,
Yeah. So
maybe.
there was a lot of him, ridiculing friends and not wanting me to go and spend time with them. He would sort of make fun of how often I saw my parents and how often I communicated with them. And, it led me to, honestly, yeah, again, believe him. I believed him. I thought, oh, I wonder if I am. Like, I wonder if I am calling them too much. I wonder if I am visiting them too much. Maybe he's right. Just, going down that road with him, it felt like I had given up all of my will. As I'm talking about this now, I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? Like,
Hmm.
here, 20 plus years later, I can honestly say if I was in that situation now. Oh, it would be so much different. But at the same time, I'm looking at it going, okay, you know, I I definitely went through that for a reason. There was an absolute reason I went through all of it and the choices I made and didn't make. It all led me to where I am now, for better or for worse.
Hmm.
That was a huge lesson learned for me.
One of the points that you make in your article is lack of respect for boundaries. Can you speak to that?
Yes. Yes. And so this is a kind of a creepy part of the beginning. I had run an errand. I had been, at his apartment and I had gone to run an errand. Pretty quick errand. I came back and his other brother was at the apartment. And when I walked in, they were listening to something and I didn't know what they were listening to. They were just like enthralled. They were just immersed into what they were listening to. And they were kind of giggling too, like it was something really funny. And I was listening closer. I'm like, what are y'all listening to? It's so funny. And I heard myself in the car, not 30 minutes before, singing out loud in my car. And somehow he had recorded it. And I still wasn't like clear on what had just happened. But he obviously had planted something in my car to be able to listen to me while I was in the car. And, it was just me singing aloud in the car to a song.
Hmm.
And uh, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm thinking about it now and trying to talk about it, but it was just a mind blowing moment that because nothing like that had ever happened to me before, and it was a total invasion of privacy and
Hmm.
a complete stepping over a boundary, one that I didn't even think I had to set. You know?
As I'm listening to you now, and I can see our listeners can't see you, but I'm with you, and I can see all the emotion that comes up right now as
Yeah.
you consider really what all of that meant. Because it's a combination that experience sounds as though it's a combination of what you write about in terms of lack of respect,
Yeah.
criticism, disrespect, unwillingness to communicate, humiliation that leads to second guessing yourself, questioning
Yes.
yourself, feeling so lost,
Yes.
and to feel so, I'm going to use the word violated
Yes.
with
Yes.
regards to your personal privacy,
Right.
and that still all these years later it provokes such a response
Yeah.
because it was so devastating.
Yes. It was. And, and I think on some level it is now just because I so desperately want to go back to that 26-year-old and just like shake her,
Yeah,
hug
yeah.
her and shake her and just be like, Monica, like, look at what's actually happening,
Hmm.
and not just brush it off like, oh, it was so easy just to brush off in the moment. Like, oh, it's
Mm.
nothing. You're like, it's nothing. It's fine. It's just, it was a joke. But Then when you really look at it, it's like, but wait, what all was he listening to and how for how long? And I never found anything in that car.
Hmm.
And then, years later, and this was maybe like maybe 9 years ago, even, I never found a tracker on my car.
Hmm.
But the woman that he ultimately left me for did find one on her car. So that
Patterns
is,
repeat
yeah,
themselves.
they sure do.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
patterns repeat themselves. I think, when you reference subtle signs
Mhm.
and also the patterns of criticism, disrespect, boundaries being blurred, stepped over, isolation, reactivity. Could you speak to the reactivity that became part of the cycle
Mm.
between the two of you, the sort of
Yes.
gaslighting, his reaction to you
Oh, yeah.
bringing things
Absolutely.
to his attention?
Yes. His level of reactivity was so completely foreign to me. It almost felt like I was being trained, sort of like, I guess, grooming in a different sense, right? Like
Mhm.
getting used to that control. I still remember having to call, and he'd be at work, and I would just need to know something about, like, oh, would you be available for this at this time on this day? But instead of him answering in a cooperative way, he actually, like, what the hell are you calling me for, Monica? Like, I'm working right now. I don't have time for this. Like, put it on the calendar. Just very, very abrasive, um, very much letting me know where I stood. Like, I was
Mhm.
unimportant. Work was way more important than me. But in the moment, I wasn't really fully grasping that. I was just taking it. Oh, I had a
You
thought, and
talked
then,
about being accused of being overly sensitive in
oh,
response to things
yeah,
he would say, do, or
absolutely.
imply.
Very much so. Um, I was always too sensitive. And I believed him. Again, I believe that. And to some extent, Laurie, I feel like it's that part. Sure, that's true. I am sensitive. I'm definitely sensitive. But that's exactly that was the voice that was inside, like, hey, Monica, this isn't right. Like, this isn't right. So, yeah, he was right about that. I am sensitive. But because it was working against him, he didn't like that. And so,
Mhm.
and it's taken me years to sort of put that together. But there was also the dry erase board. So we were living together at the time, and it had become a thing where, if I didn't get two of everything at the grocery store, it was going on the dry erase board. If I forgot something, it's on there. So every little mistake that I made was right there on a dry erase board in our apartment. And God forbid I stood up about that.
As I keep saying this as I'm listening to you, there's so many
Mhm.
things that are coming up for me. What I'm hearing is that these subtle signs become louder, more pronounced, and
Mm.
evident as the relationship continues. And what
Yes.
was subtle initially becomes louder and louder and louder. And your self esteem, trust in yourself becomes less and less in reaction to what's going on. And boy, how important it is to recognize those subtle signs that start off in a relationship where your intuition and spidey senses and your body
Yeah.
react, because often our body will speak before we will.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And so the anxiety that mounts, and also our tendency not to practice self care, because then the anxiety creates the fear that then drives all the responses, and we lose ourselves in the
Yes.
chaos
Oh,
of
yeah.
this toxicity.
Yeah. Oh, I was completely lost. Monica was lost. She was. not only was she in the back seat, at the very end, she was in the trunk. Like she was just like, she
Yeah.
wasn't there anymore. And, certainly was never in the driver's seat at all. Hell, wasn't even a passenger, really.
No.
Not
No.
really. And I finally started actually listening to my gut years down the road. That's when things started to shift.
I think the points that you make in your blog are really, really important for all of us, not only in the dating scene, but also in our intimate relationships, where there is not a balance of power, where there is patterns of kind of verbal abuse through criticism, feeling small. I mean, many of the things that you've outlined in your blog are forms of abuse.
Yeah, they are.
They really are. And when we're in it, we don't necessarily recognize it that way.
That's right.
But we know how we feel, which is not good.
Right.
It's just not good.
Right.
And so I think that's really, really important to pay attention to and to check in with ourselves, right?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
it's really, I think, some of the most amount of courage is speaking the truth to ourselves when we really wish it wouldn't be true.
Oh my gosh, yeah. But I think that's the ultimate form of bravery. Yeah.
It is. It really is. So to all our listeners who may resonate with what Monica has shared this morning, and again, please read her blog at themontfortgroup.com because there's great information, insight, and the sharing of a very personal story, Monica, that took courage to write and to share with our readers and with our clients. I want to let people know too that they can schedule an appointment to see you by going to themontfortgroup.com. I'm so thrilled that you're part of our team.
Thank you,
I know you have a lot as a therapist, tremendous compassion, insight, non-judgment, and humor to offer your clients. So I'm delighted that you're a part of our team. And I look forward to our next podcast down the road, whatever topic that will be on.
I would love that so much. Thank you, Laurie.
Okay. Thank you, Monica. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
The Montfort Group aims to provide a serene, calming setting where you can feel challenged, supported, and motivated. Our skilled therapists bridge specialized backgrounds and varied philosophies together to create one unified strategy. Rather than steer you away from your own natural abilities, we help you maximize your unique strengths to uncover the boldest version of yourself. We do not view a broken history as the end of a story. We see it as an opportunity for a new beginning. To learn more about our practice and how we can help you, please visit us at themontfortgroup.com.